what do you think of kind of off piece, but Elon Musk Neuralink?
Neuralink. So yeah. Okay. So let me tell you about the Cybathlon, which is this fantastic 4-yearly Olympic-style event that's run by ETH, the University in Zurich. Okay, and what that is a series of events for teams that have an athlete who has a disability, roboticists who then augment that person, and then the software people behind. So you will have races with people with robotic arms, and the tasks they have to complete are kind of, hanging some clothes on a coat hanger or slicing some bread. And so you're properly trying to encourage these roboticists to design stuff that will work for disabled people. And you'll have a robotic leg race where people who are paralyzed from the waist down wear these robotic legs, and they have to complete a course. There was one competition or one event there which was for people who were completely paralyzed, and they had to control a character using their minds. And so they would have, in most parts, a skull cap, which is something you wear over your head, and it tries to pick up the brain signals. And so you have to concentrate, but also not concentrate too much. You have to focus, but sometimes not focus. And we have a really low resolution way of measuring brain signals at the moment, which is basically think or don't think, I think, or concentrate or don't concentrate, something like that. And so you see these people who are not moving, driving these video game characters in this event. There was one competitor in the last Cybathlon I went to, which had he had implants.
Is that Neuralink or is that different?
It wasn't Neuralink, I don't think. It was something similar. So instead of having this shower cap on with these sensors that had to get through the skin and the bone, he had stuff specifically placed in the right parts of his brain. He wiped the floor with everyone else.
Wow.
So it detecting stuff through the skull is really basic. If you can get the sensors into the right part of the brain, I think you can do an awful lot with it. But that seems to be very individual from what I understand. So there's no one size fits all. You stick it here, you stick it here, you stick it there. And so it feels like that isn't close to being a general solution. And I think, surprisingly, I think Elon Musk has said a few things that turn out to be exaggerated. Who would have thought? And he's talking about this being possible next year and whatever, and that's his shtick.
It's not like stocks and shares are impacted or any of that kind of stuff.
Not at all. That's not how capitalism works. So I think it is a solution to something, but it's going to take a lot longer. It's fantastic. I mean, I've seen so much development in all areas of helping disability, and also for everyone else, improves our lives as well. Because it turns out when you make things more accessible for disabled people, it makes things easier to use for everyone. But Neuralink itself, being able to control things by just thinking about them is possible, but very individualized, I think. And then there's that whole thing of, can you go the other way? Can you start merging with the machine and sending thoughts into the brain? And then you're talking about stimulating different things. That happens with drugs and stuff. You can make people will imagine and think things and hallucinate things. So that's perfectly possible. And I think there was something I saw where they're using AI to try and read people's minds by scanning them, maybe in an MRI. Would that be the right thing that you put someone's head in? I'm not sure. And they supposedly could tell whether you were thinking of a strawberry or a car. But again, that's very individualized. So it means that if they work out how to detect the different signals from your brain that tell whether you're thinking of a strawberry or a car, it doesn't work on my brain. They have to retrain it on my brain because my brain works in a different way. So there's a lot of hype around this sort of stuff.
But it's not a one size fits all. So it's
Definitely not.
Yeah, I suppose it's hard though, because from what I've seen online, people believe that they just get this random link in the brain, and then all of a sudden that it opens them up to tons of information. But it's not like that.
I don't think so. I mean, I'm prepared to be wrong, but I think I won't be wrong. Not in the short term. There's plenty of sci-fi films that make us think that. The Matrix and Existence, I think, was another one with Jude Law, with a very gory thing that goes in the back of your head, and all that sort of thing. I don't think we're anywhere near that yet.
Do you think it will happen that it will become? I suppose we kind of already are when you look at phones, but a kind of like a cyborg society. Because in 30,
we kind of augment our bodies with various things.
But the thing, so we have unlimited data on a phone. The issue is the time it takes from the data to go from our phone into our brain. But if you have something that's in your head and you can immediately look up, what's the capital of X, or, how do I make this dessert, and it's instant. That is the same thing. It's just the time it takes.
Yeah. I mean, if you need sub-second information on how to make an apple crumble, then, you're obviously working in a very competitive kitchen. I once went to the University of Washington in Seattle and saw a contact lens that they'd grown, not made, which had an LED display on it. Didn't work, but so even back then they were thinking of having a display in your eyes. I think the thing that I've been talking about this in the talks I give to companies for years, and it's now pretty much there. I think, as you've hinted to, the way we interact with our phones and our computers, we have a screen and we'll touch and we'll tap or we'll click with a mouse. That's not quite the most natural way of conversing. Actually, it's what we're doing now. It's talking. And so I've been saying for a while, we'll get to a stage where we'll wear something in our ear, which will be our personal assistant, and we'll just chat to it, and it will chat back. And we're pretty much there now with the large language models. Like, you can talk to Gemini or whatever on your phone, ask it a question, and it will respond in a natural way. So I think that's where we are now. I've met someone who had a chip put in his arm so he could get into his office.
That's scary.
By just swiping it. Again, he was a particular guy with a particular point to make. I'm not sure we need to go inside the skull for that kind of thing. I kind of feel that just having an assistant on tap that we can talk to is probably as far as we need to go, unless we get to a place in the future where you do need fraction of a second advantage, and maybe it will heighten our senses and stuff. I was in Japan once, and why do most of my stories start with I was in country once? And I saw this. I was in Japan once, and I forget which car company it was, but they were using a similar kind of brain scanner to make you a better driver. What they were doing was, I believe, the car, this was just a simulator, but the idea was the car would respond before you actually physically wanted to turn left or right. And so it gave you a smoother ride because it could work out what you intended to do beforehand. And it was a really kind of convoluted thing. So there might be things where we could augment our body with things that just take the edge off our quirky human behavior. And there's definitely, I mean, my nan was cyborg because she had a metal hip, you know, and there's
hearing
no
aid
reason,
or something like that.
Yeah, right. And there's no reason in the future why those things can't get a bit smarter, so they're not just a mechanical thing. And that's probably short-term sci-fi. I can't think of any examples at the moment, but there must be some where, a hearing aid, for example, the latest hearing aids will connect via Bluetooth to your phone. So you can take a phone call without actually touching your phone. And the thing that you wear all the time that helps in your life is also your phone receiver. And I think you can also change those hearing aids so they either focus on directionally the person in front of you or more of a wide space all around you. So you can already do that sort of thing. And I would imagine there are other things that will happen like that.
I think it's really fascinating when it comes to genetics and AI. I'm not sure if you've seen the stuff with the dire wolves or the woolly hamster. Have you seen this? There's a genetics company. Oh, I can't remember the bloody name of it, but they've essentially created a dire wolf, and the way that they did it is, the genetics, they didn't have a complete set, but they used AI to essentially fill in the gaps, and they brought back the dire wolf. And they're using that, the AI. They said it would have taken them thousands of years, hundreds of years, and they wouldn't have been able to do it. Essentially, it would have been impossible. But AI, because it can calculate so many things at the same time, figured it out. And now they're saying that they're going to bring back more extinct species.
Because that's what you want to use AI for, isn't it? I mean, there haven't been any films about bringing back the dinosaurs.
Nothing went wrong. Nothing will go wrong. It's fine. But I think that is fascinating. And then you break that down even further. There's a company, I actually have stocks and shares in them, called CRISPR Therapeutics. And it's gene-altering therapy. And it identifies genes that you are predisposed to. So it might take, you are predisposed to this type of cancer, and you can prevent against that. And it's all through AI, and I think it's fascinating the specifically in healthcare, the advantages that we'll have with this technology. It's crazy.
And that's where I think it's important, and we should have done this a little while ago, to point out that when we say AI, it's so much bigger than just ChatGPT or anything like that. Large language models are a tiny, tiny part of this much more fantastic area called artificial intelligence, where computers learn to do things for themselves. Medicine is going to be massively impacted, and so AI or machine learning, I'm not quite sure which one it is the idea that if you've got enough training data, you feed it all into a computer system, and it can learn stuff at a rate and spot things at a granularity maybe that humans can't. So the best example I can think of is spotting breast tumors from X-rays. If you've got enough training data, you feed in millions and millions of breast X-rays, and you tell it, this one has a tumor here, this one has no tumor, this one has a tumor here, and that's how you train AI. Is basically you give it the data and you tell it about what it's seeing, and then it builds up this picture. And I think we're to the point now, we've been following this for a few years, but we're at the point now where AI is at least as good as a human at spotting tumors, and can spot some small tumors that your human could miss. And of course, AI doesn't get tired, doesn't get distracted. So, you have all those kind of advantages. Another example, like you say, is with gene editing or DNA. If you've got enough training samples, then it can start to understand things of a complexity that a human person never would be able to.
Yeah, they can't comprehend it, or they can't. It's
and it's about spotting patterns that we wouldn't even think to look for. So imagine that you were trying to cure Parkinson's, or you were trying to find the type of person who doesn't get Parkinson's. Okay. You might do a massive study that takes in 1 million subjects, and you'll give them all a lifestyle questionnaire. I'm making this up now. This is it's probably a rubbish example, but you'll give them a lifestyle questionnaire. Have you ever eaten cucumbers? What day of the week were you born on? What kind of household did you grow up in? And you may see a common pattern between the answers of people that don't get Parkinson's. And maybe it's a bad example because you have to wait till quite late in life usually for that to appear. But what if only you'd ask the extra question, do you have butter or margarine? But you didn't think to put that in. What if that was the key? Okay, you've all of that research was for nothing because you forgot to ask the key question. Now, imagine instead you could gather all the data that you ever could about every single person that you could. And you were able to chuck that into a computer, and it was able to look at it from all sorts of angles. And it's not the butter and margarine. It's the fact that people who eat cucumbers, who were also born in the winter, who also have never worn wool, there's the pattern. Those people are, let's say, immune to Parkinson's. And obviously, I'm being deliberately ridiculous. But the point is, if you gather all the data that you can, and then you have a really powerful computer that can do really, really fast analysis from every single dimension, you might see a pattern that you would never have thought about asking in a million years. That's where I think AI will help to prevent cancer or some of these diseases. The problem there is we need to convince people to submit their life's data.
Yeah.
And that's where, there's a trust issue, and who do we trust with that?
It also comes down to the trust issue of if it's privatized. If an AI figures out the cure for, breast cancer, but there's a company and a conglomerate behind that conglomerate then have an agenda to make more money. And I suppose that's the fear for people, is that the control is, you've got tycoons that are in control of this that just want to make another zero.
Yeah, I would say the fear, if I may, I would guess the fear for most people is, I don't want to give my personal data over because people will take advantage of it. And the most realistic example of this will be if your health insurance company learns more about you than you want them to, and suddenly they start charging you more because they've decided that your lifestyle, or they start advertising to you in a certain way because they know that you're predisposed to certain things. So I would suggest that's people's primary concern, and it's a valid one. And it's really sad, because I do believe that if we were able to collect as much data as we could, computers will eventually be able to, solve a lot of this stuff. And then there's your point, which is, of course, you just make a load of money off the back of your kill. But pharmaceutical research costs so much that I think companies are allowed to have the rights on it for 15 years anyway to make their money back. So I think there is precedent in that.
If you guys enjoyed that clip, please do me a huge favor before you go and head over to our Into the Mind podcast official page, where we have the raw, uncut Into the Mind podcast, and hit that subscribe button. And the more subscribers we get, the more incredible guests we can get on the show. I really appreciate you guys for watching. Thank you so much. And I'll see you all real soon.